Thank you. Now we will have our first active panel discussion. Commercialization of space, the new space. What does it take to create a space-based economy? Which will have as moderator Mr. Mark Hopkins. Mr. Hopkins serves as the chairman of the Executive Committee for the National Space Society. Mark Hopkins has a Bachelor of Economics from the California Institute of Technology and a Master's in Economics from Hartford University, and is a former grad corporation economist. He has written numerous publications concerning space economics and is responsible for most of the early economic studies. Welcome, Mr. Mark Hopkins. I will let you introduce the panel.
I'm CEO of the National Space Society. My organization was founded in 1974 by none other than Juan. And today we're going to be talking about something that's always been of a lot of interest in the National Space Society, and that's commercial space. In particular, we will show why commercial space is booming, the enormous potential it has for Puerto Rico, and in particular, we're talking about the potential for Puerto Rican spaceport. Today's panel will be analyzing these questions, and I'd like them to come forward now. I'll introduce each speaker just before they talk. And we set it up so that there's going to be a relatively large amount of time for questions, especially as compared to some of the previous panels. National Space Society has been pushing commercial space for over 40 years. That's decades longer than anybody else. The reason for this is because we've always felt that the commercial approach as compared to the more traditional approaches is bound to be more efficient. In recent years, it's become increasingly obvious. To give one example, the company SpaceX has developed a rocket, mainstream of their rocket fleet in 2009. And they did this at a cost which was substantially less than the commercial approach that had been predicted using the more traditional cost models of the airports that NASA has. How much? They reduced the cost. That was an order of magnitude, factor of 10 below what these models have predicted. And that's huge. That has a lot to do with why commercial space is moving. First speaker is Miguel Rodriguez. He's a former Deputy Director for Management Engineering Directorate at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. He's a former Director of Operational Systems Engineering at Kennedy. He's a former Chief Space Resupply, Return, and Shuttle Payloads Division at Kennedy. And in terms of awards, he has two NASA Exceptional Service Awards, as well as a Kennedy Leadership Award, and was given a certificate of commendation for his leadership during the Katrina hurricane. Currently, he's an aerospace consultant for Puerto Rico.
Thank you.
So, last year I was here and kind of was showing some of the additional things that Puerto Rico should consider as they pursue the especially the space sector, but the aerospace sector. And this year I want to take a step back and perhaps offer a different perspective, but still with the same strategy and vision. So what I want to kind of walk you through that based on what I saw happen to Kennedy Space Center. So on July 21st, we launched the last shuttle mission. And of course, NASA was expecting that they were going to transition into the Constellation program. Constellation program had a very large budget profile, and of course it was heading to be more expensive than what the agency had initially planned for. So when the new elections, the new president came on board, he commissioned Lori Garber to help NASA see the importance of moving into the commercial, allowing the commercial sector to be more involved in the low Earth orbit operations so that NASA could continue worrying about how to go to the moon or to Mars and other planets. So what happened was the Constellation program got canceled pretty much. The government was told shut down the Constellation program. The Constellation program, you're going to work now on what they call the Exploration program, and essentially is to a more budget, real type of program. The Congress and the President funded the commercial crew program, and the idea was to help companies that could demonstrate their ability to provide transportation to low Earth orbit, to demonstrate it. And of course, the main companies that were selected were SpaceX and Boeing. But then Kennedy Space Center was faced with going down for about a 15,000 contractor workforce to less than 5,000. So that, you can imagine, you had a highly trained technicians, engineers, managers, and all of a sudden there was no place for a lot of those people to go. So that created an underutilized number of facilities that were part of the shuttle program, since the shuttle program provided a lot of funding at Kennedy. So there were many facilities that were going to be vacated. And as well, there was a large number of these technicians, high technical people that were going to have to be let go. So, enter the state government organization called Space Florida and the Economic Development Commission, which is a local commission. And they started pursuing projects to attract business to Kennedy Space Center. So, in doing so, between the three of them, the Florida government and the Economic Development, I'm sorry, the chart was up. So what they did is they established a model that has been very, very good. They brought in SpaceX, and they brought in Jeff Bezos with the Blue Origin, as well as others, to Kennedy Space Center for launching. So, what I want to say now is, instead of having this vision where we're trying to pursue bringing someone like SpaceX, continue those efforts are going to take more long term, is to consider a model similar to what they have in Florida, but looking to getting connected with the universities and the private business to take a small step in building a small launch pad, whether it be at Roosevelt Roads or where is the appropriate place here in Puerto Rico, to target the nano satellites, microsatellites, whatever you want to call them, but small satellite. And but you have to do something, you have to build it for people to come. So if you take some steps to build, to get the permits, environmental permits and the FAA permits, then you potentially provide the infrastructure, minimum infrastructure to attract that business, and then hopefully put a star in Puerto Rico in that arena that costs a lot less than trying to put together a complete launch rocket business. So with that, what I wanted to show you is Kennedy Space Center is doing the same. It's going to cost them $900,000 to build this small satellite infrastructure. They're going to have it ready by 2017. The $900,000 because Kennedy Space Center already has the permits and all that kind of stuff. So obviously it's going to be cheaper. But I think it's an area that perhaps within the community, the universities, it could be done here in Puerto Rico. And with that, thank you.
We're going to try to keep these presentations to 3 minutes. And I have my executive assistant down here flashing cards, in case you're wondering what all that's about. The next speaker is Enidia Santiago Arce. She's a technology transfer manager in the Innovative Technology Partnership Office at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. She has a bachelor's in electrical engineering from the University of Puerto Rico and a master's in technology commercialization from Northeastern University.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be here and see what Puerto Ricans are trying to do to keep Puerto Rico afloat. I live in Maryland, but it's kind of heartbreaking to see what's going on, but it's good to know that there are people like yourselves that are trying to do something. And I'm trying to contribute my little bit. As they say, I work for the Innovative Technology Partnerships Office. Translating that is what it means we do technology transfer. Uses and then they translate into the market. Most of you have heard about the mattress, right? And the orthopedic, that sort of thing. Well, somebody that does the same thing like I do out of the NASA Center came up with the idea to market that foam used for the space shuttle to turn it into something else. So that's the sort of thing we do. SBIR STTR is the Small Business Innovation Technology, which is we actually give you money to develop a technology that is going to be used for NASA, for the mission. And those are not immediate needs. Those are things that we need that we project are going to be used at some point in the future. And then the partnerships, which is the part that I'm going to talk to you about today. On the partnership process, we like to do these things that we like to call a win-win-win. You win because you get a technology. The government wins because they work with you to further develop the technology, and the taxpayer wins because we are leveraging our technology already paid by the taxpayers into creating new business. So partnerships give you do 3 things: integrate ideas, leverage resources, and accelerate development of end products. So this is one of my jobs is to develop this sort of partnership. And when we see a need that exists either at NASA or your company, and you have a product, you have a technology that you're developing, and it matches with a technology that we're developing in-house, and we work together to create a product that is going to help the NASA mission and yourself, because you will develop the idea is that you will use this technology to commercialize it, to create your business. One of the things that we're doing recently, they're called cooperative research and development agreements. And when we have a technology or we have a knowledge that you need in your company, and you come to us, and we work together into transferring that knowledge. So it's not only a patent or a copyright or a technology that exists, but sometimes it's the knowledge that you might not have the experience. If you're trying to break into making instruments or breaking into the aerospace community, you can come to us and we'll work with you and we'll help you to understand, to test. We have facilities that you can come and test your technologies. What I wanted to say is that these agreements, in difference of a contract or a space, can we move to the next one? So these models that I have here, they're ways to partner with us. It's not a contract, it's not a facility agreement. In here, we're not giving you money. Contracts are the ones that you get money, and cooperative agreements are the ones that the money goes from the federal government to the outside. These ones can be done with non-exchange of money, or if you want to use one of our facilities, we charge a nominal fee for the use of the facility. And these are the SpaceX agreements. Like I said, these are collaborations with the public and private sector. And I know that there's some groups here that have used it. I think some universities have entered into SpaceX agreements where they're developing technologies to be used for different things. And I think they have done some on this space CubeSat environment. So patents and copyrights and software usage agreements and creators at the different times to partner. And I'm down to 1 minute, but if you have any questions on partnering and partnership with us, with NASA, and the different elements I have described, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Luisa Zambrano Marie. She's a planetary radar scientist at Arecibo in Puerto Rico. She's a founder and director of the Arecibo Space Academy. She's co-founder of the Spaceport Puerto Rico. She's founder of the Puerto Rican chapter of the National Space Society, which is an organization I like. She's a former faculty member of the University of Texas. She has a master's in space sciences and also, in addition to that, a bachelor's in physics, the later from the Metropolitan University in San Juan. And she's working towards the development of a new space economy, a space commercialization-based economy in Puerto Rico. And last but not least, she's chair of the 2016 International Space Development Conference, which is the annual conference of my organization, the 35th such conference, which will be held next May in this hotel, and you're all invited.
Thank you, Mark. That was a very good welcome. Thank you all for being here. Like Mark said, I'm Luisa Zambrano. How many of you have been to Arecibo Observatory? Okay, perfect. Good demographics. Isn't it awesome? It's a technological wonder. It's an engineer marvel. And at Arecibo, we do much more than just science. We have this program that I created called the Arecibo Observatory Space Academy. It's a pre-college research program where we teach high school students how to develop research and cope with life. Basically, when you get to college, you're faced with new ideas in this new world. You're expected to know much more than when you thought in high school. So these are a few images of some of the students that have participated in the Space Academy. We do different types of projects and experiments. In the bottom left, you can see them having a telecon with Korean astronaut So Yoon-gi. On the bottom right, they are presenting in this hotel at the Student Development Symposium from the Ana Jimenez system. And on the top, they're inflating a high-altitude balloon that they did a research project for. But what do these kids and most of us have in common? There's more kids, sorry, before I go to the comment. Here are some more students presenting different events. On the top, we have students from the Space Academy at the International Space Development Congress with last shuttle astronaut Chris Ferguson. But what do we have in common now? That we were all born, again, after Apollo. And being born after Apollo has a lot of significance, especially because it's the first time that as a species we're able to see the planet from afar. It's the first time that we're able to prove that the Earth is round by seeing it and by mathematical calculations. And it's the first time that we're able to really understand the ecosystem that Earth is. But living in the 20th century and the 21st century, we're still teaching like if we were in the 19th century. And it's something that I agree with our speaker earlier today, Audrey, in cybersecurity. We can't keep teaching kids like if we were in the 19th century because right now they're expected to know this set of skills that was not expected to be known by you until we were highly professional. They're expected to have leadership, have teamwork, be quick thinkers, because answers are not found in a library after 3 hours of study. Answers are found instantaneously with access to mobile technology. They have to be able to speak in public and defend their ideas. They need to be able to write and communicate in multiple languages, specifically in English, regardless of where they're from. And of course, they need to have basic knowledge of computers and software programming. It's something that we didn't have to know when we were growing up. But in order to be part of this economy, they need to know this. Then besides from that set of skills, the concepts that they need to learn go beyond units of measurement. That is something we always thought, how do you measure centimeters, inches, millimeters? It goes beyond tables and graphs. It goes all the way to having cybersecurity understanding and knowing where you are and how you're exposed and how your persona is exposed to the world. And finally, ideally, we want all this to be integrated with scientific research. We think the scientific methods are very useful for discovering new areas of study. Well, I prepared. Next. So our vision in the Space Academy is basically to prepare students for these careers. We want them to experience research and experience science and see what it's like when you're going to go to college via simulation environment. We practice immersed learning, and we have students do independent as well as collaborative research. We want them to not only excel professionally but socially, develop their social skills, their communication skills. In the images that you see in the bottom, we have two students presenting their poster. One of their researchers, he wanted to do a levitating magnet, a magnet that could make you have anti-gravity. In the middle image, they are presenting at the International Space Development Congress in Toronto, Canada last year, thanks to the sponsorship of the Puerto Rico Science Technology Trust. And on the first image, it's basically our classroom, so you get to see what our classroom looks like. So, like I said, those are our vision. Our goals are basically to foster that curiosity, that they know that not everything is done and there's a lot to discover, there's a lot to do, and that they're able to identify the problems that they need to solve. The problems that they're facing now are in no way similar to the problems we were facing when we were growing up. And finally, this is a picture that culminates a lot of our efforts. This is the students at the International Space Development Conference in Toronto, Canada, with a little fellow called Buzz Aldrin. He's one of the top men that walked on the moon. And with a group of students of the Space Academy. One of the best things of the Academy is that we have 100% college enrollment rate. So every student that has participated in our program is currently enrolled in some undergraduate program in science, technology, math, and even beyond that. We want to break the paradigm that for being in the space economy, we just need engineers. We don't need a lot of engineers. We actually need all areas of study because this is a whole economy, it's a whole business. And with that, we want to invite you to the International Space Development Conference, like Mark said. I'm the chair. Our theme is Space Beyond Borders. It will be held here at the Sheraton Hotel next May 18th to 22nd, and registration is now open. Our booth is on the far corner outside the exhibit hall, so feel free to ask us any questions. Thank you.
The next speaker is Khaki Broadway. She's a founding member of New Space NYC. She's a New Space industry business development and marketing consultant. She's former director of payload sales and operations at Explore Aerospace, one of the New Space companies. She's former operations manager for the Borehole Research Group. She has a master's from Columbia University in something which is unusual for this conference, architecture, planning, and preservation. Jackie?
Thank you. I'm in India. Enough, anyway. My grandfather was there. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you very much. That's what I do. So, this is the island where I'm living. Down here. It's called Manhattan. It's kind of small. New Space NYC was started on Manhattan Island in January, and you may wonder why. There's no space industry there. There's a lot of people though. But what we did was started this benefit corporation, which is a B Corp is a new means of starting a corporation. That's committed to accelerating the conditions that advance space exploration. What we're doing is building an entrepreneurial ecosystem in New York and actually around the country and hopefully around the world that fosters the technologies, concepts, companies that are reaching for the stars. And what we do by means of that is to have forums, have activities, bring people together, the stakeholders together, so they can network and know each other and build this industry, build this business. Like I said, we don't have the space industry per se, but the industries that we do have are real estate, finance, insurance, healthcare, aviation, manufacturing, yes, we still have manufacturing, trade, government, intergovernmental, meaning the UN. We have tourism and entrepreneurship and R&D. And why do I bring this up? Because our members come from all of these other industries. In fact, what we found is they've come out of the woodwork from these other industries going, I've always been interested in space. I've always wanted to think about it. I've always wanted to go. How do I do something in space? Well, New Space NYC provides that. We also have about 20 or so, probably 20 to 30 colleges and universities. We have a few very stellar engineering and technical schools as well. We also have the arts. There's actually a lot of engineers who are interested in exploring our galaxies. And we got excited because there's means to do it. There's means to go. There's platforms. And what I'm showing you here are the platforms that are more or less close to working. Well, ISS is there, of course. This is Blue Origin's New Shepard. This actually serves double. This is a ULA Atlas 5. ULA is doing some commercial launches, but they're going to be launching orbital ATK is going to be launching off in Atlas 5, supposedly in December. And then of course you have SpaceX. And the applications, the things that we started to see that could foster these startups, that could foster interest, is microgravity research, small CubeSats and small satellite launches. And the facilitators, the means to get us to these launch platforms, of course NASA, which provides a lot of the funding. And then you have CASIS. Not in here is spaceflight and space grant consortiums. CASIS provides funding as well to go to ISS. And then you have NanoRacks, that is the payload integrator that'll get you actually to all four of these. This is where I am right now. This is my other island. And what's interesting here, let's rattle off. So Puerto Rico's industries: real estate, finance, insurance, aviation, manufacturing, trade, government, tourism, entrepreneurship, and R&D. Getting a sense of deja vu. Education. There's about 20 or so universities and colleges here. A few stellar technical colleges and universities. See where I'm going with this? So, you have this forum. You have this New Space NYC, as we're calling it, that brings people together to talk about commercial space, to think about commercial space, to start building commercial space startups. New Space NYC believes that space is the next frontier. It's also the future of humankind, because if we're gonna live on this planet, we have to take care of this planet, but we also have to figure out a way to get off this planet if there is such a thing as, if we are going in the direction of the sixth extinction. So, I encourage you in Puerto Rico, and I look at my friend Luisa, to join us and build a space community in Puerto Rico. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Nicole Jordan. She's COO of Space in Nova, where among many other duties, she oversees operations pertaining to the Puerto Rican Spaceport. She's Deputy Director of the Silicon Valley Space Roundtable. She's former Strategic Liaison of Operations for the Center for the Advancement of Science and Space. She has worked both for the X Prize Foundation and the National Space Society. She's former South American Regional Coordinator for the Space Generation Advisory Council in support of the United States Program on Space Applications. And in 2014, just last year, she received the 100 Colombian Entrepreneurship Award. Nicole?
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you so much for having us here. As a matter of fact, I am Colombian, but I've been in the U.S. for a long time, so for me to get the opportunity to come and work and do something in Puerto Rico is pretty exciting. So I'm here representing Space and NOAA. I'm their Chief Operating Officer. We are an engineering, design, and services management company. We are creating different technology space systems, but with the main goal of creating launch sites. Oh my God. So, so what have we been doing lately? We have presented a project to the port authorities in order for us to start what is called the Puerto Rico Spaceport. The Puerto Rico Spaceport will take place in Jose Aponte de la Torre Airport. Currently, we have started during the past 8 months to a year and a half different processes, and some of them include the pre-consultation for the spaceport license. The pre-consultation for the spaceport license gets done with the Office of Commercial Space Transportation. This is the other office of the FAA. Now, that doesn't mean that we still don't have to work with the other side of the FAA, which regulates traffic management and airports. So it's sort of like a very well coordinated process. So we've been as I mentioned, in our pre-consultation process. We've spent some time bringing potential customers, giving them tours around Puerto Rico and showing them the potential of the site. So you would be asking yourself, why Puerto Rico? Particularly since, we heard in previous presentations that Florida and similar states around the United States are building spaceports. Well, luckily enough, we've done a couple of studies, and Puerto Rico's spaceport location is essential for equatorial access. It's actually the best equatorial access that you can gain from any of the spaceports in the United States. And that as a whole brings a lot of advantages. It is located where an old Navy base used to be, so there's a lot of potential for growth when it comes to companies, particularly R&D. There's propulsion bunkers or so forth that the space industry is willing to utilize. And overall, our vision is not only to just keep it as a spaceport, but we want to grow this as an R&D facility. We see the potential of uniting everybody that has been working in commercial space in a beautiful island, and I look forward to your questions.
Our last speaker is Gary Bickford. He's partner at the Space Finance Group. He's CTO of the Integrated Space Analytics. He's founded or co-founded multiple high-tech startups, including one that is valued at over $225 million on the American Stock Exchange. And believes that companies which participate in the early stages of commercial space will be the core institutions of humanity's future in space. Gary?
Thank you, Mark. I have a claim to fame that few of the people in this room have. I watched Sputnik fly over in 1957. Anybody else? There's one. So, Mark gave me a quick introduction. I won't talk about Space Finance Group right now, except to say that we are working on a publicly traded fund to fund space companies, and we're looking for some more. We're looking for a few more partners in the management company. So, if you're interested, talk to Jose or me. I'm going to be speaking after this session, so a little bit of this will be covered more there. I think this is the question that brought me into the space community 4 years ago. Until recently, space was NASA, it was Roscosmos, it was ESA, it was the government, the Congress deciding what to do, NASA deciding how to do it, and then paying companies to build it. And we're now at a point where private industry and individuals are letting their inspiration carry us. But I will be talking a little bit more later about how new space is now learning how hard space can be. We've heard about the SpaceX anomaly, orbital TK, ATK has had a recent launch failure, and Virgin Galactic has been, they're now I think 6 years late on a 4-year program. This is a 2013 map of space launch facilities in the United States. So this is before Spaceport Puerto Rico. So this amounts to an inspiration to all of us. So we need to get Puerto Rico on there as well. So I'm going to keep this short because I will be speaking again. So I don't want to say everything twice. I think this is my last slide. Actually, it's just the wrong. It's maybe. So this is the global launch. Only 3 or 4 of these are actually manned launches. There's a perfectly reasonable success story for unmanned launches, small rockets, and so forth. I'll stop there and we'll leave the rest till my next hour.